Hello, welcome to this stream. It's a special stream because our very own Chris Nowicki is our guest speaker to talk to us about what it took him to land a job in tech. But first of all, what is this project, right? What is this apprenticeship project that we're all in? It's called the Gridiron Survivor Project because my friend Rudy had a spreadsheet of an NFL survivor pool that he was manually maintaining. And I said, why don't we just build an app for you? And so that's where the idea came. And I noticed that in the industry right now, self-taught and boot campers and graduates, they're missing this gap between getting a first job and when they get done. There's just so much process and um, just things that they're just not learning while they're in school or when they're teaching themselves that this project provides, like teamwork, a scrum, working together, merge conflicts, PR reviews, and unit testing. Like a lot of these things that are not really taught but are needed and are required at a job. And so these kind of things are I ideas that I came up with, and I said, you know what, let's create this apprenticeship project so that others can get involved in all of that too. And so that's kind of what Gridiron Survivor is in short. But I also have a surprise for everybody because we have been needing a designer for a while. And so I have asked Alyssa to come on to join us as a UX designer. And she is gladly has been pinging me a few times to join. And we just didn't have the availability until now. And so I'm happy that she's wanting to come on the team because she's learning and growing at the same time. So she's going to also be ingrained into all the learnings of this whole process and everything. So welcome to the team, Alyssa.
Thanks for welcoming me. And yes, I was very much badgering Shashi. Let me up with the project. So I'm really excited and I'm honored to be a part of the team.
Awesome. Thank you. But to take aside from that, wanted to introduce our guest speaker. Well, not, I guess your guest speaker now because I'm about to kick you off the team. But Chris Nowicki. Chris has been on the team for what, about 6 to 8 months now, just on the functional side and just building a lot and learning the process and all of that. Yeah, you're counting. Yep. And he was able to land a full-time engineering job just a few weeks ago. Negotiated it. We talked about it, and it's a signed and ready to go. So, Chris, why don't you tell us more about it?
Yeah, well, not going to give any spoilers, so you'll have to wait till November 4th on day one for me to announce my new employer, just to kind of keep the suspense. But yeah, so I think before I jump into what I'm going to be doing or whatnot, I think a few things to start off on. Dominique, I think, had a really cool question in your Twitter feed. Like if I saw this as a book in chapters, how would I talk about this? And that's kind of how I want to kind of phrase this a little bit. So to give a little bit of a background, I've been in the tech industry, but just not in web development and not in software engineering. I've been at my current employer that I'm leaving. They're aware. Everyone knows. I've been with Raytheon Technologies, the aerospace defense company, for 18 years, and been a wonderful experience, an amazing career with them. I started off in 2007 as a system admin maintenance instructor for Linux enterprise systems. I went out and trained soldiers, how to maintain the equipment that they bought from us, basically, is what I did. So I was working in Linux systems, Linux servers, writing tech documentation. And then over the years, that morphed into me managing training programs. Was overseas for many years, managing training programs over there. And then 2018, I had the opportunity to take on my own team as a section manager. And I was managing a team of software developers that were developing interactive gaming simulations for soldiers, which is pretty cool, for maintaining equipment in virtual environments using Unreal gaming engine, Unity gaming engine, a lot of different things. And so really great career. About 2 years ago, one of the things that happened as I moved into strictly section management was I stopped being an independent contributor. I was looking at numbers. I was, yes, managing projects, but the more I moved up, the less I was even managing project. I was more managing personnel, staff, making sure they're delivering on the projects, meeting with my leads who are running the programs on a day-to-day basis, and dealing with all of that stuff. And I got, I started to get a little bored, and I just wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. I missed creating. I inherently have a creative mindset and spirit, just love, I remember back from college, and I remember doing some programming, and I said, let me check this out. So in May of 22, I joined a 6-month intensive boot camp through Coding Dojo. They were a phenomenal boot camp. I did 2 stacks. I did the MERN stack and the Python stack. It was about 35 hours a week on top of my day job. So so it's something that I paid to do. After doing some tutorials, doing some free code boot camp, all those sites, I realized that tutorials just weren't going to do it for me. I needed something more structured. So I did a boot camp, really fell in love with doing Python was great, but I really enjoyed React. I enjoyed React a ton. Graduated in November, December of 22. And then the kind of question became, well, now what? Okay, I'm out of boot camp. Let's go get a job. So I applied to some jobs. Didn't hear anything back. And this is right around when the industry started kind of taking a turn with a lot of the layoffs.
When you got out of the boot camp, was your expectation that you were going to get a job like within a few months?
My expectation was a year. So that's kind of the expectation they had set up, that typically with them, now this is pre craziness in the industry. Their what they had promoted on their site was 90% of people that graduate from their boot camp were placed within a tech job with between 6 months to a year of graduating the boot camp. So I knew my next step in the process was, oh, hey, Nick's in there. Hey, Nick, how you doing? You're a great guy. Jason's in there. Cool to see you. I knew the next step was to do projects. So I started working on some projects. I made a Pomodoro timer. Cool. Right. And then, one of our sponsors, Front End Mentor, before I even, was a part of this group, I joined them, did their pro version so I could get a Figma file. And any project that I did with them, I tried to turn into a full stack application. So that was kind of giving me that practice of turning it into a full stack application. And one of the things that I did was right around the time that I was graduating boot camp, Astro was becoming big and Next.js was becoming big. So I tried Astro for a little bit. And then I said, you know what, let's give Next.js a try. And I kind of went all in on Next.js. And I used my Next.js portfolio environment as my playground to try different techniques that I was seeing on YouTube, to try different things that I was learning and implement them into my site. So that way I knew kind of what I was doing. But something was still kind of missing. So now we're in February, March of 2023. I've done a few interviews. People get curious because of my 18 years at Raytheon, but then they quickly notice my experience in software development is nil. I had maybe 2 projects, but that was it, and boot camp is just not enough to get you into the industry. So then I was like, all right, what do I do now? Twitter. And I've never known what to do with Twitter. I've had an account since 2000, whenever it came out, I just never know what to do with it. And so I kind of started looking for people in the tech space and web development, started following people. And next thing you know, it started growing. My feed started growing. I looked up people that I was watching on YouTube. that grew, and in May of 23, I got connected with James Quick, James Q Quick, really, really awesome human. He's been a huge part of my journey from the beginning. I watched some of his YouTube videos. I was looking on Twitter, and he had this thing for render. He posted this thing on Twitter called render ATL, which is it's a favorite. I've been 2 years in a row now. I love that conference. And I said, hey man, he had a discount. So I reached out to him, DM'd him. I said, hey, love your stuff. I'm really interested. I bought, I would love to go. And he's like, great. He didn't have a free ticket, but he had a 20-30% discount. So I used that. And I decided to do something pretty risky. And I bought a VIP ticket because I didn't just want a normal ticket. And now this was not a cheap ticket, because this was a couple of weeks before the conference. I bought a VIP ticket because in the VIP tickets, you get to be in the same room as the speakers. So all of the speakers, anyone else who is VIP, you get to just go into the room, and all of the vendors that are there, they use the VIP room to eat during lunch, get coffee, whatever. So I told James that, hey, I'm going to be going to the VIP opening party. So it was a huge party that they threw for all the people who signed up for VIP. Went to the conference, met him there. He introduced me to a few people, went off and did the James Q Quick thing. And then I met a ton of people, right? And I started getting connected there. And then I got connected in the VIP room. I met Nate Emerson, Nate who codes on Twitter. Him and I really connected. And I met one of the guys who runs Monogram, which is a web development agency down in Georgia, down in Alpharetta, Georgia. And they do a lot of Next.js work. Him and I connected. He knows, Lee Robb from Next.js and all of them. So him and I kind of geeked out over that. We stayed in contact, and slowly my network grew. So that, I would say, is the intro point into something starting to flourish, to finding my way in the industry, was networking, going to conferences and networking. And I'm not saying everyone's got to buy the VIP ticket. Just, I went to a conference and I introduced my people. I said who I was. I said, I'm trying to break into tech. Here's what I do. And I had just had a lot of great conversations with people. And
would you say that you came out of your shell, or not your shell, but that's not something you typically do?
No.
Like, just to go out to a random conference and that you don't know anybody, but you need network, right? So you need to go out there.
It was imposter syndrome to the max. Here I am in a VIP room with, at the time I didn't know who they were, but I'm in the room with Danny Thompson, James Q Quick. I'm in the room with all these people that I'm seeing on YouTube and Twitter with hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm like, hi, I'm Chris. Just graduated from boot camp, trying to get a job. You know anything, let me know.
Cool.
So, and I think even then, after that point, I started getting more involved in Twitter, started engaging more. So that engagement piece of not just going, hey, there's two types of, maybe more, but I'm going to categorize it in two types of people on Twitter. There's the people on Twitter who engage for a selfish purpose, which is okay. But then there's people that engage because they want to know something, but also give back into the community. They're encouraging right? It became a virtual hangout with all the friends that I met at Render. And I bet you, Richard can attest to this. After he's met so many people online, he went to that Wisconsin. And then after that Wisconsin, he's everywhere on Twitter now, talking and engaging with all these people that he met. He can't stop talking to people. He's having coffee chats like 20 times a day. So I think that's the key piece there. It's the networking, and it's engaging with the community. It's supporting others in their journey and what they're doing, whether they're already in the industry or not, but also, going in and asking questions, like, something really interesting. And, working, and I'll get to this in a little bit, but I was working with James Quick on some stuff after our January's that conference this year. And and we were trying to figure out what to do with this thing. And he goes, let's just go to Twitter and ask. I'm like, no, let's get everyone's input. So we said, hey, we're going to use a custom UID for subscriptions. What do y'all think about that? And we got a ton of feedback, right? So learning how to utilize Twitter as a tool to get feedback from a community that has tons of experience, but also engaging in what other people are passionate about, what other people are pursuing, and kind of being a part of that piece.
So that piece you're talking about, networking, right? You were intentional about it. Like you knew, and you were like, in order for me to take this to the next level, I have to be intentional about networking. I have to get out there. I have to do something, right?
Yeah.
And was that difficult? Because there's a lot of introverts in the industry, and they always ask me, like, Shashi, like, I don't like talking to people. I don't like going to events. I don't like to do any of that. I just want to find a job. And I always tell them that I understand that, but the quickest way for you to build your network and have more options is to network. To do it online first, meetups, conference, whatever. Take your time. But the more people you know, the more you go meet, the more you connect, the more options you will have.
I would say absolutely. If you are an introvert and you are afraid to go out there and do that, connect with people on Twitter, make some friends on Twitter, find out who's going to the conference that maybe you want to go to, connect with them beforehand, and then when you get there, meet them, and then slowly, get yourself out there. You don't have to be, go all full force in this thing, right up front. But if you are just, the chances of breaking into the industry by sitting at home, not networking, and just hoping, you really are, I think, playing the lottery. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Now, could you do it? Sure. Absolutely. Getting that one right connection, applying for that one right job at the random opportunity. Yeah. But in my experience over the past 2 years, that doesn't really happen that much. It's the people who are doing what our team is doing on Gridiron Survivor right now. They're participating in a group of people in a project together, filling in that gap from the things that I didn't get from and I want to talk on that in a little bit. But I think to kind of close up this story, because I could talk forever on it, and then we can get to questions and stuff. It's where the turning point was, for whatever reason. I always kept on hearing about that conference. I just kept on hearing about it everywhere. And I'm like, man, I want to go. That'd be kind of cool. And I couldn't really, at the time, my wife and I were talking about it. I had a work trip, and I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to make this happen. And Danny Thompson posted that he had some free tickets, the non-meal tickets, but still he had free tickets. And I said, cool, let me reach out to him. He was awesome and blessed me with the ticket. I'm still super thankful for that. And then, I kind of played the game a little bit. I went to my manager. I'm like, hey, I want to go to a conference, and I manage software developers, so I think this would be really cool for me. So they paid for my trip. Awesome. So my company paid for my hotel and my airfare and my food. Danny Thompson got me the ticket.
And your career changed too, because that's part of it. That started it. Hey.
Yeah, I know. Now, I would say here's what happened at that conference for me. So I had spent so much time playing, like I was coding. I didn't stop coding. So I was coding probably 20 to 30 hours a week still, working on projects, playing with frameworks, playing with, I remember when I wanted to figure out how to use Resend and how to use cron jobs in Next.js. Well, I came up with an email form to contact me on my website. No one ever used it, but that wasn't the point. The point was to figure out, how do I send emails using React email, Resend, and Vercel cron jobs, right? So I was figuring all that out, playing with it, having a blast doing it. I go to that conference, and right before I went to that conference, there was a Compressed FM episode that I listened to, and I said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I know James. I've talked with him before. I'm going to connect with him and be like, hey, can I help you out on one of your projects? I'm not looking for anything. I just need experience doing something other than a front-end mentor project. So we talked for about an hour, and ended up creating a whole subscription service for deals for devs, which is something that he's been building for a while. And I used all the experience that I had. So we talked for an hour, and at the end of that, he kind of said, hey, he goes, just to give you some feedback, he goes, we've been talking for an hour. I would have no idea that you've been in the industry for 2 years. You talk as if you've been in it for more than 2 years. And I had a similar kind of interaction where I was at, on the pig roast dinner. I was sitting at a table with a bunch of people and talking with Brad Garopi, and he we talked at the dinner table. We were talking about Next.js and their rendering and how complicated it is at times. And
I was right next to you, bro.
And you were there. And then afterwards, we're at the fire pit, and Brad goes, so who do you work for? I'm like, I'm a senior manager at Raytheon. He's like, wait, what? You don't do this for a living yet? I'm like, no. So I could talk the talk, but now I needed to prove that I could walk the walk. And that's where I just started getting involved. And then, of course, I met you at that conference. You call me Tyler, and then that's kind of stuck to, I will always be Tyler. We connected through, I think, one of the Discord channels. You reached out to me saying, hey, would I be interested? What's my experience in coding? And I kind of told him what I was doing for James. And Shashi was like, hey, do you want to come on to Gridiron Survivor? And I was like, you know what? I would. I have no idea what Gridiron Survivor is. And probably to this day, I'm the worst person at explaining what kind of an app it is, because I care less. I don't do sports. But I think that was the turning point for me, where I actually started engaging, getting involved. And that feedback was really important for me. And then from that conference, I met a bunch of other people. I applied to a ton of jobs. I met directors of departments, VPs of departments, got some awesome mentors, you, Shashi, and Tessa Kriesel, and a bunch of other people who have really supported me along the way. And this year it kind of started to really, really change, where more opportunities, I was getting more visibility. You and I talked about how cold applying just ain't going to be the way in. It's going to be through, someone that and that's how ultimately I got the role at the company that I'm going to be working for.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And the reason why I reached out to you was because I met you in person.
Yep.
Right. And otherwise I wouldn't have done that. Like Ryan, same thing. We both met Ryan at once Texas that. And I was like, hey, you guys interested in joining? Like, this is easy for me because I've met you all in person. We've talked, and I'm obviously, I don't know the full spectrum of your skill set, but I know that you're hungry and you want to learn. And I would love for y'all to join the team, because the chemistry for me is important to keep the chemistry there and to keep the team camaraderie together. So that was good. And yeah, I think one thing that Chris and I were talking when that Wisconsin was happening, and I was like, Chris, you have to go, and we have to, you have to
talk with this individual.
Yeah, you have to put your hip on that individual, because that's a way in. That's how you're going to do it. If anything, we proved to, because I've had side chats with them too, and they were just like, I don't know, like, he doesn't have experience, but like, seems like he knows stuff. And I was like, okay, let's go in. Let's have a game plan of not bothering them, but like letting them know like who you are and giving you that opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you what came from that. And so you're right. So we're at that Wisconsin. I made sure to talk with this individual, got some great feedback on salary expectations, things that I was hoping for. Because you have to remember, I have 18 years experience in aerospace with the salary to show for it. But now I'm trying to break into an industry as a mid-level developer with no real-world experience to show from a development standpoint. But I have all this real-world experience to show from the leadership standpoint. And so when I got back from that Wisconsin, I reached out to one of the VPs at the company who was also at one of my talks. So we connected over that. And I was encouraged to not apply, but to ask them for their coding challenge so they could see where I was at. And I met with this individual. We talked for a while. I said, hey, what do you, and the first time we talked, we did a Google Meet call, and I said, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm trying to break into. I want to code, but I feel like I need to utilize my leadership experience, but I don't want to not code. What do you think about that? And they said, well, at our company, depending on the projects, our leads do code on the programs they support. I'm like, okay, cool. And I said, well, how about this? I said, I'm not really applying, but I would love to know your input as to where you think I'm at from a skills perspective. And the individual's like, yeah, great. Send it to me. I had to do a private repo for this because it's what they give the people who actually interview for their company. I had to create a web app within 4 to 6 hours, not really focused on design, but focused on functionality. It had to do it had a bunch of requirements, and then send it to the individual. So did it in about 6 to 8 hours, but still did it, got it done. Sent it over to the individual. We met later that week, and for an hour and a half, the individual started the conversation with, Chris, I got to start off with the comments I have towards your code is nothing but nitpicky. There were nitpicky comments. There was things that really highlighted my out of the box thinking, and there were things that I could have done better. But the things that I could have done better weren't these major. The things that I did made me stand out. Like, one of the things I had to do was I had to do pagination at the bottom for when I pulled in a bunch of requests from one of their custom APIs. And the way that I did the pagination is I had it as a floating component, so that no matter where you scrolled, the pagination component was right there. A lot of people just put them at the bottom, and you have to scroll down to the bottom or scroll up. Mine just kind of stayed floating there. That stood out compared to maybe what some other people did. And the feedback from that was, hey, you're not junior, but you're not senior. You're definitely not junior though, but you're not senior. And the company really isn't hiring junior or mid-level developers. They just, the individuals they hire are super, super high quality people. But they were having a hard time filling what they used to call a project coordinator role, and that they're now calling an engineering lead role. And so we talked for a little bit, and then, he goes, hey, if you're interested in doing a lead role and being able to code, reach back out, because your name is coming up around our company every now and then. And I said, sure. So I reached out, and that's what I did. And I did an interview with the CTO, CEO, and 2 VPs. Waited a week, found out that the position went to another individual, and then a week later, the CEO contacted me and was like, "Hey, your name keeps going around here, and I think we're going to move forward." And I said, "Sure." And then salary expectations came up, and I got super freaked out because I'm taking a pay cut to go to this company, which is fine. It's you and I talked about this, Shashi, and I think just being transparent, it's scary as crap from a financial standpoint, but 100%. I can make it work. But I kind of had to take a step back and go, what have I been pursuing for 2 years? I'm not happy at my current role. Not that there's anything wrong with Raytheon. Again, great company. They've been wonderful to me, but I just wasn't happy with what I was doing anymore. And you asked me this, Shashi. You said, okay, Chris, if you give your notice and they offer you another 20 to 30K, which I probably could have gotten, would you take it and stay at Raytheon? And I said, no. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, nope. And that's because I'm pursuing a passion. This is not just about money. It's about a passion thing. Yes, everything is about money at some point in time. We got to pay the bills. We got to support. But there's other ways that I can make supplementary income using the skills that I have. Whether it's doing freelancing off and on as I can and whatnot. So, it was a scary choice. There was a lot of family discussions between my wife and I on what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Can we make it work? Can we not make it work? Oh, and by the way, wife is like, let's move to Georgia and let's try to have a kid too. And, so lots of conversations, lots of hard decisions. But at the end of the day, what really got me is, one, it's an amazing company and it's such a great opportunity. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to share with you all who it is in a couple weeks. But it's a great company with great leadership, quality people, and I think I'm going to learn a ton and be able to contribute a lot from my 18 years at Raytheon as well. But the other piece that really helped me was when I was talking with CTO, and I've known them for, a while, meeting at, different conferences and stuff. They're like, hey, we're not doing this as a favor. This isn't because we know you and we're just giving you a handout. We actually really want you. And I think this is the role you've really been waiting for 2 years. That takes a culmination of what you've been doing the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And your past 18 years at Raytheon. And that right there is kind of like okay, they really do want me. You go into a little bit of an imposter syndrome in negotiations. You're like, am I asking too much? Am I asking too little? What's going on? But at the end of the day, I want to be working for a company that wants me working for them. But also, I'm super stoked to be working for this company that's on the state-of-the-art, technology. They're using, some great frameworks. They have some, it's super exciting.
So I have two things for you.
Yeah.
One is you brought a great point. Is the reason why I asked Chris, like I didn't say 20. I said, what if they gave you $200,000? And he was like, nope. I was like, okay, you made the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it was quick. I didn't even.
If it was about the money, right, then you would just stay and be like, you know what? We're having a family. We're moving. We need the funds, and I'm gonna stay. Cool. Yeah. You can do that. Or it does suck because you're starting from pretty much ground zero with the tech, the engineering world, and you have to take a step back a little bit. But then you're going to chase your dreams, and you're going to be satisfied, and you're going to be coding and doing other stuff that you enjoy. It does suck when that happens, when you come across that crossroad. But I would let y'all know that the tech world, you move up very quickly. If you do a great job, you will move up very quickly. There's lots of opportunities. There's lots of companies out there. As you build experience, you will get the choice to pick where you go, and you'll have more opportunities and all of that. And that's just a part of how the industry is. It's a business for you. It's a business for them. And you want to be treated well, and you want to also, have the company know your worth and all that stuff too. So I think that was the key thing for me, was I had to ingrain that in you. Like, I understand. I totally understand. So it's less, but can you do it? Like, think about the scenario. Can you stay at your current job for another 20 years? Or you could do it right now with a good company, work up the ladder and all of that. And that was more meaningful. And I will tell you this. I didn't tell you this, but I talked to them, not a lot, but often on the side. I said, go get Chris. I would tell them, like, I'm telling you, go get Chris. go get Chris. So I think it was just more like a nudge, but I'm happy that in the end they were like, yeah, we have to get this guy on. Like, it's a no-brainer. Even if you're coming in with more management than coding experience, you grade it out not so junior, right? So that should tell them that, okay, you're picking up fast. And then the second thing is negotiations, right? When you get that job, it's really difficult to negotiate. I've talked to many people that have gotten their first job. Same with you. And everybody says, well, they gave, as an example, right? They gave me 100K, but I don't know if that's enough. Like, or I think that's not enough, right? Or whatever. I'm just going to accept it. I'm just going to accept whatever they give me. And I'm like, hold on here. They're coming in low because they know they can take advantage of you. Okay. Right. And number two is your right to negotiate. They offered you a job because they like you. They want you on the team. There's no way, no how they're going to say no to you if you ask for a reasonable amount. They'll counteroffer, or they'll say yes, right? And so a reasonable amount would be good to counter offer if you're not comfortable. Because the thing that I've learned throughout my career, in the past 10 years, I've been to maybe, I think, 5 or 6 companies, is you want to be satisfied with the offer you accept. Because if you're not, I did this early on, I kept looking back and saying, man, I could have gotten more. I could have gotten that. I never asked, right? Like I could have gotten this, or maybe I could have gotten that. Like, even if you ask for another week of PTO, you can ask for that. You don't know until you ask, unless if it's like a large company and they're set, right? It's like, oh, this is standard. This everybody gets 20, and that's all you get. Cool, but the income, the base salary, the stocks, everything can move. Everything can move. And that's why I always tell people to come in. Like, if you want, ask me, and I will help you negotiate, because they know that you're inexperienced in negotiation tactics, but I'm not. I've done this many times. I will tell you what to do. The worst thing is they say, hey, you know what, Chris, we can't do that, but we can do this, right? Or hey, you know what, like we can't do this at all, and this is the max. Cool.
I think if anything in this process, I've learned how to be okay with just saying it, and it sounds crazy, and some people don't understand, and that's okay. I think for me, it wasn't a matter of I am worth this much money. It's we're starting a family, we're moving, and I'm losing how much money per year that I'm used to getting in. Okay, and I'm down here, but we did get to the point where, I mean, they were super kind about everything. They're like, look, we are doing the best we can do here. So, and we got creative on a few things, and that's about it. Sign the papers, move forward.
That's the other thing too, right? Like you might not know some tactics or some things that I know of, and when I brought it up, we're like, oh yeah, let's ask them about that, because then it gives you you're more comfortable with it moving forward, because you might not get everything you need, but there's ways to balance it out so that you get to where you want to.
I also look at it like this, though, and this is something that I had to remind myself of. And I tried to put myself in their shoes for a minute, going, okay, there's Chris. He's been all over the place. He's all over Twitter. He's in Shashi's stream. Shashi's hitting us from the side saying, hey, go and hire this guy. I got a lot of people who vouch for me in this industry because I've was able to walk the talk, and they're taking a chance on me too, though. I mean, they're taking a chance going, all right, Chris has 2 years of coding experience, but this crazy career at Raytheon, people are vouching for him. People that we trust are vouching for him. Okay, we'll take a risk. And I think there is a level of respect for that too, that I have of going, okay, when it comes to pay as well, if I was in their shoes, okay, I'm going to take a risk here. And now it's up to me. It's me to come in and go, hey, let me prove my worth and my value, and allow that to speak to itself over time. And that's what kind of really helped me change my mindset from, I'm going to be losing money to no. This company is willing, this well-established company that has a ton of respect in the industry. They're everywhere now. They're giving me a chance. Okay, well, now let me jump in and show them that their chance was worth the risk, and that's what I'm excited to do.
Awesome. So before we move on to questions, I have one thing I want to talk to you about. How did Gridiron Survivor play a role in you changing your career?
Absolutely. Well, boot camp. I remember doing my final project for boot camp, and they put us into a group of people and said, build an app. And it's like going back to, your senior year of high school, or like going back to college when there's like a few people in the group that just don't show up, and so you end up doing the project for everyone. Yeah, that happened to me. Now there's people jumped in and they helped contribute, but really it was me and another individual who did a lot of carrying it. Right. And so great, I had a little bit of experience working with another individual in one Git repo. Cool. Now transfer over to Gridiron Survivor, right? I'm used to doing my own projects, and a lot of people out there are career transitioners. So they've been working on their side projects. They're doing front-end mentor projects. They're whatever, right? But they're in their own repo as a solo developer. They're from beginning to end, design, functionality, probably not doing all the commits or PRs. They're just rolling everything in, right? when I joined on Gridiron Survivor, it was a huge needed mental shift. Because what Gridiron Survivor is providing is a real world experience. I mean, you're kind of running it similar to how a team would be run in an industry, from your experience at Microsoft to maybe even another company. The point is we're all in our teams. There's a UX team, there's a documentation team, there's a functional engineering team. You know, we at the very beginning for a while we had a back end team because we had to build out the back end before all this started. And so it gives you that opportunity to work on a project with other teams, similar to a corporate environment or a small agency environment, where you are not doing everything. You might go in there, and this drove me nuts at first. I love making everything look pretty. Love it. And I would go in and be like, ugh, this component needs some design, but my job is not to do the design. My job is to write the functionality to make sure we can bring in the back end, display it on the front end, and then the UX team will go in and make it look all pretty. But that bugged me. There was times at first where my PRs were like, and like 50 files changed, lines of code, because I'm like, let me tweak this here. Oh, this is wrong here. Let me tweak that here. Oop, nope, nope. And then Shashi had to slap me on the wrist multiple times. Be like, no, stay in your lane. Just do this one thing. If you see something that's wrong, add a to-do into it, but let's write an issue for it and let's hand it over to the right team to be able to handle it. That was probably the biggest thing for me, was being able, that was a huge piece, working with the team in a Git repo, learning how to do merge conflicts correctly. Also learning to stay up to date with merging in changes from develop, so I'm not merging in 12 PRs at once. But then it's also communications. So then, okay, great. Now you're working in a team. Hey, I'm working on this piece. What do you all think? Hey, front end, you're doing your thing. Are you thinking about adding this in, right? And being able to have those conversations and seeing gaps and being able to communicate those gaps, along with, we're all somewhat working, you know, we all have full-time jobs for the most part, right? And so we're pursuing, you know, we're working during the day. Sometimes we're available, not available, and then learning to pick up a task that you have time for and communicating, hey, I only have time to do like 2 points this week, or a 3-day task or whatever, or the sprint, right? Or I'm going on vacation. It's that real world kind of working through everything environment that this provides. The other thing is testing. You and your Nazi testing. One of my big gaps coming into this team, I had a ton of functional engineering experience, being able to tie in with APIs and stuff. I knew how to do that fairly well. My challenges were, I remember the first test I wrote and I looked at a blank screen going, I have no idea. This is a whole new language to write. It's a whole new way of thinking. Mock what? And then next thing you know, you have the Mockingbird song from Dumb and Dumber in your head when they're in the dog car, you know, and but really though, and then it kind of, I got challenged to start working on unit tests. To now, when I look at a unit test, I'm like, all right, I kind of get an idea of what I need to mock and not mock. How do I approach this? How do I not approach this? Right. So it's a gap filler. The Gridiron Survivor is a gap filler for those transitioning into tech on their own, those graduates from boot camp, those working on projects, is going to provide you a team experience, simulated real world environment. When I did my interview, I was able to use situations from this. They're like, yo, what's one time when you disagreed with someone? And I'm like, well, Shashi told me this one thing. And I was like, no, I don't think that's technically right. Let me explain why. Oh, okay, cool. Right. And I wouldn't have gotten that if I was working on a project by myself. Right. Now we get to take this experience, go into interviews and say, yes, I work on a team. I understand how to work in a project. I understand what issues are. I understand what merges are. I understand how to do merge conflicts. I understand, you know, testing, or how to read testing, or what to look at. So it does fill in that gap. And with all of that, you have yourself, and I know that you're looking down the road to bring in other people to help you out in this. You know, you definitely come in and you don't just give us an answer. You make us work for what we need to learn and do in our gap, and then you'll come in and help us as needed. But here's the thing. Like you just said, you're cultivating a community of people who are passionate about breaking into this industry. Everyone on this team has been working their butts off, pursuing, writing code, writing functions, getting this app to work in time for NFL season starting, and you vouch for us, right? You going to the company that I will be working for and nudging them saying, hey, give this guy a look. Trust me. He's been doing a lot of stuff for me, and I think he'd be a great addition. Right. So you not only get get that gap filler, but you're also having someone go, you know what? I think you're ready. I'll vouch for you. And I will, if you're applying for a job, let me know and I'll help you in the process.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that sets this apprenticeship program apart is you get me and my entire network. And I think many of you know this is like when you apply for a job or something's open or I hear something and I'm like, hey, like this individual, I'm highly recommending them for you to talk to them. And I mean, Chris and Richard know this. They were at Wisconsin that with me. Or even Chris and Ryan at Texas that. Yeah. I was like, hey, have you met this person? Meet this person, right? Like I connect you with them instantly. And Richard knows that. Like he met y'all met so many people that I already knew because I was like, my network is your network, and build your network and connect with these individuals because you never know when they have an opportunity, and if they know of you and what you do and all of that, then they are going to more so like give you that opportunity, right? Like I think Alex was saying earlier in a comment saying like they would rather give you a chance if they know a little bit about you or know of you than you just like code applying and be like, who is this Chris person? I don't know them. They might have potential, but who is it? But you've interacted with them so many times at different conferences and online and all that. And then they have interacted with a few of us that you know too, and we could vouch for you, right? Then it becomes, okay, let's just now give them a test and see kind of where this person is at. I think that's the beauty of this group is we're all there for each other. We're all like, we have our sponsors and everything, but I do my due diligence to say, okay, there's an opportunity. This is for you. Like my knows this. Like there's an opportunity that somebody posted on YouTube, on Twitter about helping the YouTube channel. I was like, Mike, would you be interested? Because it's in your city. And she's like, no, I'm not. I was like, okay. But I gave it to somebody else. Right. And so Mia lives there too. I was, hey, Mia, you're interested in this, right? So now it's like, okay, if you're a part of my network and I know of openings that would match you, I'm going to let you know. And I can, if I know that person, like it's an easier way in because they know me. So then I could just introduce you to them. Cool. All right. Well, let's get going with some questions. Does anybody have a question for Chris? Just come on off your mic and just ask the question.
Cool. I just wanted to come on and first say, like, Chris, you're killing it. Really cool to hear your story, like, drawn out. You've been covering, like, all the high points and all, like, the high beats and the really big, like, pivot points of your journey. But super curious, what's the worst piece of advice you've gotten, between, like, day one and, like, where you're at now?
Gosh, man, hit me with the hard one right off the bat.
Don't
worst,
say it's hard, Shashi.
Worst piece of advice. My goodness. I can't think of it. I've had so many amazing mentors and coaches and stuff like that over the past 2 years. I can't think of a single bad piece of advice. I can't. I'll have to think about that some more. I'm having a hard time coming up with one. I would say, for joking purposes, choosing to eat pineapple pizza is bad advice.
That's fair.
Incorrect.
No wonder why.
So I have a question.
what advice would you have to people who are on the shyer side when it comes to interacting with people? And what advice would you give them regarding interacting with people on Twitter or LinkedIn? Like, let's say Shashi posts on Twitter and makes a post. Like, what kind of advice would you give to them?
You know, I would say, depending on the people you're following on Twitter or LinkedIn, and you know, let's say you see Richard posting a post about his coffee chats, right? He does coffee chats with the entire world at this point. And you know, you see him post about that, you can comment on them being like, oh, that's really cool that you do these. I'm super scared to do these, but hey, what if, do you have any openings and maybe we could chat because I'm nervous about talking or whatever, right? That's one thing. Or just, you know, if you see something that Shashi posts about Gridiron Survivor and you really want to get involved, but you're quiet and shy, you could say, hey, Shashi, I'm really interested in Gridiron Survivor, but man, I have a really hard time articulating myself sometimes or whatnot. And you don't have to even post that publicly. You can send them a message. Here's the thing that I've learned from this space. It's that if you are kind to people and you're respectful of people, a lot of these individuals, Shashi and other people that I've talked about, are not out of reach. In fact, a lot of these individuals are wanting to help you out. So I would say don't be afraid to even just comment and say, hey, this is really cool. Thumbs up. Like, cool. Something really easy. Just practice doing that. Practice looking for people that you're stoked for what they're doing and just congratulate them and like, hey, good job. Oh, cool. You released this product. Hey, I liked it. Or give it a try. And then going, hey, I tried this thing out and it sounds really cool. Retweet it, repost it, you know, give credit to people that are posting things that you enjoy. Use that as a starting place because people will notice if you start commenting on someone's post a lot, not as like a creepy stalker or anything, but like, you know, you start commenting a lot, then people are going to recognize that and they're going to start looking at your posts and, you know, if you're shy, find something that you are super interested in and find people that are interested in the same thing, and you'll be surprised at what you could talk about. And that goes to anything that goes around what coding stack you're involved in. That involves, do you like barbecue? I love barbecue. I love, you know, my favorite thing to do is smoke a good brisket. You know, I love brisket and ribs and all that stuff. There's people out there in the coding community who love doing that too. So
As a follow-up, what advice would you give to people going to their first conference? Because you mentioned talking about your journey going to your first conference, feeling like that super imposter syndrome. And I can definitely relate to that because going to that conference, like I was terrified. I experienced the first going on the airplane for the first time, like my mind was like, I have no idea what's happening. I am chaotic and I am super scared. And the first people I met was you and Shashi. So like, what advice would you give regarding that?
And your first milkshake. Let's not forget, you had your first milkshake in your entire life.
Yes.
And you all should have heard
Many
this guy. Ooh, the sugar. I could feel the sugar. It was crazy. It was really funny. Okay. Here's what I would say. Find it, start off slow. Depending on where you live, I'm sure there are, if you go to meetup.com, there's probably a lot of code and coffee type meetups in your area that you can go to where you can show up. You can be quiet. You can be introverted. You can see what's going on. It's a smaller crowd than what's a conference, and you can get used to being around people that are pursuing tech and software development, right? So that's the first thing, kind of little baby steps. If you ever seen What About Bob, one of my favorite comedies, you know, baby steps. The second thing is when you go to your conference, just talk to people. You know, you're going to be look for a speaker that's speaking on something you're excited about. You're going to find a bunch of people in the room that are excited about the same thing. You see someone, you sit down. You know, I remember one time I was sitting down and talking with someone, and next thing you know, they were the, you know, VP of DevRel at a company. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't know that until later on, but I just sat there talking with them. So you can find commonality of things to talk with, going to topics that you're interested in. And then just when you're sitting down, waiting for it to start or at the end of it, look to the person to the left or right of you, be like, hey, that was pretty cool. What do you think? Yeah, cool. hey, my name's Chris. Oh yeah, whatever, right? And that's a great way to start for conversations. Go to the mixers and stuff like that. Now, I think all there's so many conferences out there, but I've been to 2 of these conferences. Both are amazing, Render and that conference. I would say that if you're nervous to go to conferences, I'd say a really good first conference to go to is that conference, because it is a community-driven conference. It's not about who you know and how many followers you have. And not that Render or anything is like that either. I'm not saying that. It's just, it's a completely different vibe.
It's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe. It's meant for different audiences. Clark Sell has done a phenomenal job with that conference and cultivating a community of developers who want to grow together as a community of developers. And they have open spaces, which I won't get into here. They have a lot of opportunities for you to just talk with other people and interests that you're in. And, when Shashi and I actually ran into Shashi at the airport before that conference, Wisconsin, and me and my wife and Shashi shared a Uber up to the hotel. And then we walked in and we saw Richard, and first time seeing him, we gave him a hug. And I remember later on that week, I looked at Shashi, I'm like, he's growing up so fast. Look at him flourishing in the wild, right? And we watched.
Your kid. He was your kid that week.
He was he was your kid that week too.
No, yours. I have plenty.
True. But I think, Richard, what you did at that conference, you took a risk. You got on your first plane, you had your first milkshake. But here's the thing though. You worked your way up to it. You were already in Discord. You were in the GIST group. You were on Twitter talking with people. So now you got to meet your online friends in real life for the first time, and you had already developed those relationships. So that's why I say start off on Twitter, because typing to someone is not as scary as talking. And then next thing you know them, you meet them in person. Well, you've already had conversations with them, and it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is like ease in. And like Nick says too, if you have any meetups in your area, check those out. Those are nice, because then you build a camaraderie locally, because that's going to be more meaningful.
Meetup.com.
And then like also like for myself, if you see me, come say hi and tell me like, hey, I'm here alone, like I don't really know anybody, then I'm like, hey, okay, follow me. And Chris and them know that too. Like I just met Chris and Ryan, but like I introduced them to a ton of people, even though I call him Tyler and say, hey Tyler, meet all 8 of these people. Have you met these people yet?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And then he's like, Tyler. And then they were like, wait, why does your name tag say Chris? Oh, I don't know. He called me Tyler, so I'm Tyler.
I went with it, and it became our joke. I still want to get a shirt that says "Hi, I'm Tyler," but
that's the thing is with me and a lot of people at that conference. That's what we do. Is we want to network, and we want you to gain, meet new individuals too. Not every conference does that. Some of them are kind of like closed, and it's a little bit harder to meet people, but that is great because they're more open, and a lot of individuals are like, oh hey, come and join us, or like meet more individuals. And then you start to kind of find the group and the individuals that you enjoy, that you have commonality with, and then you start to connect with them and start following each other to like sessions and whatnot. And that goes a long way. Roxy did that. She came to that conference on her own, and she was super shy. And then she started to find people that she enjoyed being around with, and now they go to the same conferences all the time. And I think she's going with you, Richard, to All Things Open. Like it's just like that. When you build that connection and you get that human connection in the tech industry, you just want more and more and more. Yeah. Oh, there she is. Boom.
Yeah, there she is. Oh my God, I got to mention. Yes, you do, Roxy. Roxy and her socks.
Awesome. Any other questions? I do have some from Twitter, but I wanted y'all to ask your questions first.
Yeah. So I have a big question, because it's kind of like a deciding factor for me between like Twitter and LinkedIn. Because obviously I'm still new to Twitter, so my followers are like very small. So like, do you recommend that like I focus more on Twitter or LinkedIn for like posting and networking?
Both. I think a wonderful person in the industry who's been an advocate on LinkedIn is Taylor Desson, and he talks about he did a great talk on this at that conference, Texas, this year. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize. I think you started posting videos on LinkedIn, and what did your engagement turn out to be?
Videos, I've seen better engagements on videos than on
Mhm.
like written out posts. And I think they like the videos because they get to see a little bit of me or hear me into it. And also they get to see like the cool features update. They love seeing like things being built, like, okay, what happens when you click a button? Like
Right.
what will happen? Yeah.
Yeah. So the point there, Alex, is that Twitter is a great place to cultivate the community of developers and friendships that you have, and of course engage with tech stacks that you use, or if you're like Shashi and I, always trying to get the next autonomous product for our office, retweeting their amazing stuff. But I wish I would have done more on LinkedIn. I will be fully transparent. I was afraid to do more on LinkedIn because on LinkedIn, all the people that I know and connected with all work at Raytheon. So I was like, I got a little nervous. Now, if I would go back and do it over again, I would say, screw that. I'm just going to start posting because this is ultimately what I want to do. I'm still performing my job well. That's fine. And if they want to let me go, then I have 18 years of experience, and that's 18 months of, that's a 1 week for each year severance that I would have gotten. So, it would have been fine. So yeah, I would say definitely LinkedIn. It's I'm not an expert in LinkedIn. But I would say look at Taylor Desson's content. Look at what Danny Thompson has a great link on how to great free course on how to maximize your LinkedIn profile for engagements. Yeah.
All right, so I have a question from Michael on Twitter. What does code reviews look like for the team, and what is some recommendations for new developers in the industry? How should they approach code reviews?
Well, is the question in regards to our team specifically,
Our team,
or in
I would say more so our team.
Yeah. So I think code reviews, we approach them maybe a little differently than maybe how it's done in corporate, but not fully differently. So I think the first thing is the team here is all at different levels in their journey. And some, we have brand new beginners starting off in the documentation team, and so a lot of the code reviews are a lot of the times at first, I would say when we first started doing them, Shashi, really, a lot of them were, oh, what does this function do? Explain to me why did you do a try catch here, but not a try catch there? Why is this here and not there, right? That's where it started off as, because everyone was trying to get an understanding of what everyone else is doing, and we're all learning from one another. So I think that's the first way that we use that and the Gridiron Survivor project. Now, once we start getting more comfortable, right, and we get used to so each code review is required at least 2 reviews. One of them has to be Shashi or another, person that's helping them out from a senior developer standpoint. But as you get more familiar with the project and you get more familiar with what Shashi is looking for and what is expected in our code, then you can go into someone's code review and go, all right, we have a channel in Discord where we post the PR. We have we ask for a PR review. It's a little topic. There's a link to the PR, and we can discuss stuff in there. You click on that, you go in and you can go and take a look at the code. And then we all provide comments in the code. And we got to an area where we started going, all right, we're going to label this comment as a nit. So this is a nitpick comment. Like, we want this to be blue instead of red. Okay, cool. We'll take a note of that. Nits are not required to get done, but things that are functionally wrong or things that were not thought of, like, hey, you built this great function. Cool. Where's your unit test for it? Okay. Well, nope. You got to do a unit test for it. Or, hey, what you're doing here doesn't really make any sense. You're actually causing a lot of re-renders on the page. Why? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you go in and you kind of discover why you're doing re-renders and how you can get around that. So we use it to keep each other in check. We use it to learn. And I think I've learned that there's no such thing as too many questions. Now, some of them have grown a lot because some people have a lot of questions, so that's fine. Or sometimes there's just a lot of issues in there. but I've never seen a code review on our end. We do it respectfully. We don't bash people. We don't. It's never been a, oh my gosh, your code sucks. No, it's been a, hey, did you think about this? Hey, what about that? Or hey, let's rethink this function here. Like, an example. This is just a random example. Example being like, why did we create a function to call a function that already exists without just calling that function that already exists exactly, right? Not saying that was bad or anything. Like, there's just a ton going on in our project, and it gets confusing. And so I think we're just all respectful of one another. And it helps us when you provide code comments on someone else's code, and then you start writing your code. The next thing you do is go, ooh, what's someone going to comment on my code that I'm writing? And then you start to see less and less comments, and the comments that are being made are, they're very valuable.
Sweet. All right. Next question from Balaji. What technical skills or tools did you focus on while preparing for interviews, and how did you demonstrate your problem-solving approach to potential employers?
That is a great question. So, never did a code review for any of my interviews because I never got a call back on any of my interviews. So that's the first thing on that one. Okay. Just going to be fully transparent. The company that I did end up landing with, they had a code challenge where, and I think this is the right way to do it. I like this approach better than your leak code algorithm stuff, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I kind of like this approach where they go, hey, here's an app we want you to make. You can choose any stack that you want, choose whatever you're comfortable with. Here's the app we want you to make. You have 4 to 6 hours to make it. Go. And then you do it. Right now, to get to that point, though, what did I do? Well, rather than hopping from stack to stack to stack to stack, when I realized I liked Next.js at the time, I've been doing nothing but Next.js the last 2 years. So, and our project at Gridiron Survivor is Next.js, and I work with other APIs. Like I said, when I was using my portfolio project as a means for a playground for me to test different authentication methods, different CMSs like Sanity that I loved and used for a while. So I would say that pick what you love, pick one thing that you love. There's always going to be more to learn later, but go all in on, this might be a controversy and spark people saying, no, choose multiple. My opinion, what worked for me was choosing one and understanding one, because my knowledge of Next.js actually helped out in this team as we were planning the project and solving some initial issues, because I knew, I know what's going on here. We got to do this. I know we got to do that. And then when it came time to me actually doing my code challenge, when I did the code challenge, I knew Next.js. So I used Next.js, as my framework to build the web app, and I knew it well. So I was able to stand it up quickly. Knowing that I was going to be doing a coding challenge, I set up a rough environment. So, you're allowed to do that. You can use a starter environment of what worked for you. So I had a starter repo for my project and then used that and went forward.
Sweet. Awesome. Is a question from our very own Michael. I am in a similar situation as yours. You have worked for many years in your current job. How comfortable are you with your career, with career changing? What are your hopes and what are your worries?
Well, career changing, I've been at one company for 18 years. So I've changed careers in my company, but never outside of the company. And by changing careers, I just went from an independent contributor to a manager role. Am I comfortable with changing my career? Yes. Am I scared out of my mind? Yes, because I'm used to one company that I've been with for 18 years. I think it's a valid thing to be nervous about. My hopes are, that I know that I bring a lot of value to the table when it comes to leading projects, leading teams, mentoring teams. And my hopes are that, that will showcase itself over time. My worries, the worries aren't real worries. They're more imposter syndrome type worries. They're more like, what if I'm not as good as Shashi says I am? What if I'm not as good as this person says I am? And you got to go into it with a level of confidence going, you know what? I'm I got this. I'm good enough to go. And so I'm excited for the career change. I'm ready for it. I'm comfortable for it. I've been thinking about it for a while and stoked that it's happening. I'm also scared at the same time. And if I wasn't scared, I think that I would be more worried if I wasn't scared. Because look, when you've been with a company like I have, and I'm sure you know this, Michael, for so long, I know what my managers look for. I know what they want. I know what makes them happy. I know what it takes to get the job done. I know who to talk to for what and when and where and why and what process and what procedure and why. Like, I know it all in the back of my head because I've been with them for 18 years. Now I'm starting from the ground up. You know, and there's a level of nerves that come with that. And I think that's pretty normal and okay.
Yeah, that's definitely normal to have those fears of failing and all that stuff. But I will let you know this, that I don't recommend anybody to just anyone if I do not feel like you're ready. If you're not ready, I will not be ready to recommend you yet, because it's not that I don't like. For me, I don't care about my reputation and stuff like that. I don't care if you tarnish or whatever, but I care about yours. If I give you to them, you have one chance.
Yeah.
Right. You have one chance. And if you go there and you ruin it, it's done. They're going to be like, I don't trust Shashi. I don't trust Chris. Bye-bye. But if they're like, oh, yo, like your recommendation was really good. Maybe it didn't work out this time, but next time. And then they'll trust me and be like, oh, you have another recommendation? Okay, we believe you when you recommend people to us.
Yeah.
And so that goes a long way. And that's why I want to give you some confidence that the reason why Gridiron Survivor works the way it does is because I get to see everyone work and their work ethic and all of that firsthand, right? If your work ethic sucks, like I'm gonna let you know, and you gotta make it better. But if it's really good and I know that you're ready, then I'm gonna start, pushing out, recommending you and getting you out there. Because again, my goal is to kick you off the team because you got a job. And that's the same true for everyone here. Is we're gonna continue to get you there, and hopefully we can get you there sooner rather than later, so that you can break into tech.
I think Nick said it well down there. I think for those of us that are, just have it ingrained in us, even us on the team, we're doing this for ourselves, but we also want to, make you happy, Shashi, and you've told us multiple times it's about you, not me. Don't worry about it. But look, Nick says it well. Don't want to let people down. That's like me. I don't want to let people down. Don't want to let you down. Don't want to let my future employer down.
I let everybody know this. Like, don't worry about me. Like, I do this for all of y'all. And in the end, I'll get whatever is coming towards my way, like the benefits are for y'all. And like I was saying in one of the podcasts that I was in, I said, they asked me, why do I do this? And I said, well, I never had a mentor when I grew up, a true mentor. And also, like, I enjoy changing individuals, what do you call it? Their generational financial outcome. Like, if I could do that for everybody, then that's a win for me. Like, then, because like the tech industry is so big, and there's so many opportunities here, not just from a coding standpoint, but financial too. Like, it's one of the fastest growing industries, and they pay the best. And like you said earlier, is money doesn't matter, but when it does matter, it matters. And when you have a family, it matters, right? And everything will continue to matter. But I could do this job for free. I love what I do. And when I got into this industry, I didn't even know it was going to blow up, but it did. And people always ask me that too. I'm like, I don't know. I just got lucky. I just love what I do. So when you can find what you love and you can do it out of your own time and stuff, like how Chris is career changing, you're going to be successful. Because when you jump and you switch careers into engineering, it's not a 9-to-5 job anymore. After the time is done, you're going to research on the technologies. You're going to spend your weekends reading books. You're going to do so much more to get a leg up and to learn more. And you're going to love doing it. You're going to love spending the extra time doing it. Opposed to something you hate, you're like, I'm done, 5 o'clock, bye-bye. Going biking, going walking, not going to touch anything else anymore. I'm done. Like when you love what you do, you push yourself further to become better. And that is where I'm getting at with the career change, is it's worth it. if you love what you're doing, and that's why Gridiron as far is so great, because I ingrain y'all into this process.
Mhm.
If you hate it, guess what? Stop and get out of this industry and do something else. But if you love it, you love the challenge, you love what's happening, then this is for you, and you're going to continue to progress, because this is only the beginning. When you go work for a company, they're going to be like, there's going to be tighter deadlines. There's going to be more people that you work with that you don't even like at all, because they're just hard to work with or whatever, right? You just have to deal with it. And so these kind of things will come in play. But if you love what you do, you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to continue this because I'm enjoying it. My career is going. I love where my career trajectory is going. I'm going to continue to excel in this industry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any last words from you, Chris, before we close out?
No, just, I think my last words are just thank you, Shashi, for the opportunity to be a part of this team and for vouching for me and giving all of us an opportunity to learn and grow and fill in the gap. And, if you're out there and you're curious about how you can contribute or be a part of this, reach out to Shashi. And, as things open up and things are available, he will reach out and let you know.
Awesome. We will end on that. Thank you. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.